Hello. Today we're going to talk about um, interfaces. We're going to take it step by step. But please subscribe to my channel if you want me to make more. So I know this is going good, and we'll just take it bit by bit. So I have created here a public interface called Payable. You do that by the same with every other type. So when you create a new project, then you have to go to create an interface. So it's a separate type. It's not a class. So you say file, new interface, and it creates a Java interface, and then it automatically generates the interface. So within an interface, then you create abstract methods that need to be implemented. So we spoke a little bit about abstract in the previous video. It means that basically they're not concrete, so they're not implemented. So then it makes sense when you do create a class that you need to implement them. So you use the keyword implements. So here we have a class then called public class invoice and then implements. And as you can see, it's underlined here. It implements payable with a capital P. So if I click on the control to go to it, it brings me back to the interface payable. So when I go here, then it tells me when I hover over it to add unimplemented methods or make it abstract. That's the other thing. So when we have an abstract class, we don't need to implement anything within that class because we're just using it throughout. We're using the same as the earnings example that we used. When we have inheritance and we use the earnings method as an abstract method in the employee class that we used, then in the commission employee, when it inherited from extends, and we use the keyword extends for it, when it extended from employee, then we had to implement the abstract class from the parent class or the superclass. So that was what had to be done. So there's always a change. It's similar to the keyword static. So if you use or call a method within the public static void main, the main method that we've used, and if it's a non-static context, then it will tell you to make it a static context. Or if you're using something that's static and you're using it in a non-static way, then it will tell you in the IDE. And this in Eclipse will tell you a lot of these things. So we have two options here. It's similar to static. So the abstract, it either makes the invoice abstract, or we can add the unimplemented methods, and we're going to add the unimplemented methods. So similar to inheritance, we use three keywords. We use extended, super, and override. But in interfaces, we also use the override to override the methods that aren't implemented. And this is the get payment amount, which is in payable here as just an abstract. Public abstract double get payment amount, and there's nothing in it. So if I was to implement it, obviously I'd need to do this and then put something in it, but it would then tell me change it to default or static or remove the method body. So when I remove the method body, then it makes it an abstract method. So within this, then we have our invoice, and we're going to create some private variables, private instance variables within it as well. So we have private final, which means we don't change it, string with a capital S because the reference type, part number, private final, string part description. And then, as we know, with all the finals, we need to have Mutator and Accessor methods to go with them. But because they're finals, we don't necessarily need to have Mutator methods because they're not going to be changed. So we just need to access them. So we have int to create quantity. And just a reminder, Mutator is the setters because we're setting the variable, and Accessor is just getting them, so it's a getter method. private final, and then we have a double and price per item. Also important to use camel casing. So, and now to implement the constructor. Public invoice, and as normal the constructor starts with a capital I, the same as the class, and it's called the same as the class except without any anything between public. So now with the 4 private instance variables, I can usually guess before typing it that we're going to use these 4 as part of the constructor. Price per item. Now they don't need to be called the same name, they just need to later on maybe refer to these. Okay, all underlined at the moment, screaming at me. And then we need to say this part number, which is going to refer to the class-wide variable, is equal to part number, which is going to refer to the constructor variable. This dot part description is equal to part description. This dot quantity is going to be equal to quantity, and this dot what's the last one? Price per item is going to be equal to price per item. Now with each of these you can click on them and you can see that they're referring to each. This refers to the class one because we know with the this keyword it refers to itself. So now they're going to complain because you're saying, oh, you're not using it. Create a getter and setter. So we can actually click on this if you wanted to, but like I said, because it's a final, you don't need to. Let's see what they do. See, it even shows that you cannot create a setter method because the field is final. So we'll also generate method comments because that's also good practice. Insert methods after the constructor. So now we have our first one that we've just generated, and we can do the same for all of the others. So we can just right click, hover over it even, and then because it's final, it's also going to do the same. We're going to say put it after get part number because we want it in nice order. It's really nice when it's all within a sequence and all within the same order as well. And now we have create our next one, and we're going to say create it after part description, and the last one create, and we're going to say create it after quantity. So now we have all of ours here and with comments as well. Really nice. So we're also going to have one other override method to go with this. And so we're going to go to source and override implement methods, and we're going to click on this to string, and we are going to say after price per item. Perfect. So now we're almost have it written already. And we're going to have our format, and it returns the method representation, the string representation of the object. So we have a lot of percentage S's. I'm going to go ahead and write this out, and I'll come back to you in a second. Hello, so I've just done the return string.format and put in my percentage S's everywhere. That was necessary, hopefully they match, and called the return for these methods get part number, get part description, get quantity, and get price per item. Within the abstract method that I have now implemented, because we implement our interface payable, we have said instead of return 0, we've just changed it to get quantity and get price per item. We're going to come back to invoice in a little bit later, but for now we have employee. So the important thing to know about interfacing classes is that we're now connecting two classes that may be unrelated. So they can talk to each other, basically. So now we have a public abstract class called employee, which implements payable. So a very cool shortcut we can do is source and then generate getters and setters, and we can just tick the boxes for each of these. And we create them as public and generate method comments. Great, so now that's all done. Maybe I should have said not after first member, but I meant to click the box to say after the constructor. So now they're all implemented. We also use the same as before, so this override method, which we're going to insert here as well. And when we click on object, because everything in object is there, and also the get payment amount because it's implementing the others. So I'm going to stop it again and see you in a second because I'm going to type out some more. Hello, so now we have our employee and we have our get payment method, and I've just said I want to return earnings. So implementing the get payment amount here enables the entire employee class hierarchy, which we've already looked at previously because we had a salaried employee and a commission employee, but we only used the commission employee in the previous one to be used in an app that processes payables. And then here we have an abstract method, must be overridden by the concrete methods that are used. So if you think of polymorphism, it's directly related to inheritance because it's an is-at relationship. And so we have here with the interfaces, we're using payable as the interface to basically talk to invoice and employee. And then we can create new objects within the main class. So here we have our payable interface test, and our entry point is here, payable. As we know, payable is an abstract class. So an interface even, an interface. And so we have payable as an array, and we put in 4 different new invoices within it. So we just put in different figures here. I can put in 2, 3, 4, 7, 5, whatever, 3, 4, 5, 7 or 6 or whatever, and then we can print out and then obviously iterate through. Here we've got our current payable and our toString method, which is part of the java.lang package anyway, so we can, it just throws back a string representation of the object, and then here we have our get payment amount. So if I was to use something else within here, if I wanted to say cur payable here, just notice that you don't have any other options apart from the abstract method of get payable amount that was used within the interface. So that's just something to note. Also important to note, this is all one statement. This is all one, this could be all huge one big line across, but I've just brought them down to the next line for readability. And also in work you usually do that as well. It's a comma separated list, and then a semicolon afterwards. So it's a iterator list array. So here we have our output then for each of these. So we have our price per item, 200, 200, 200, 400, payment due, and then payment due quantity 5. It depends on the quantity, so it automatically calculates it as well. Okay, I think that's it for today. We're going to go into a little bit more detail when it comes to commission employee in the next video, because I want to explain some more about interfaces and polymorphism as well. But this is the majority of it, so I'm going to hold off putting it on GitHub yet, and then post it up when it has everything completed. Okay, so if you want me to continue making more videos, please subscribe to my channel, give it a like if you like it, and thanks for watching. Bye.